Hello, everyone, and welcome back. It's just me today. I'm here. I'm in Not Scrubs. I have a glass of bourbon, and we're going to talk about what it's been like to have the GentleWave now for about a month or so. So one of the first questions I had was, why did you decide on a GentleWave versus a laser versus another option? I've demoed a few different options, and the laser, while cool, wasn't really, given the price point of them, I didn't find that I was going to use them quite as much to make it really worth my time. I think they're a great tool. There is a device that's supposedly coming out at the AAE, so I'll be updating you on that once I know some more information. But I might be getting one because the price point seems very affordable. However, I have used the GentleWave at another office for almost 2 years. And so I knew it was a great tool. I'm currently in the process of remodeling a house. And so the cost of it was just a little prohibitive at the time. But thanks to a few different things, I was able to get one for quite affordable. Not affordable, but, more affordable. And decided to go ahead and pull the trigger on it. It got delivered in December. I was a little bit delayed because of the weather and ended up around December 20th is when I was able to first put it into use. And today is January 19th. So it's Friday. I'm at my office, like I said, by myself, day off. I could be skiing right now, but instead here I am talking to all of you. And as far as what made me decide on the GentleWave versus the laser, I wasn't sure. My practice is very unique in that I'm one of the only endodontists in town who will see pediatric patients. I sedate a large amount of my patients, and I cater towards patients who have dental anxiety and have had previous bad experiences. That all being said, I don't tend to see as many of the tried and true traditional endo cases. So I'm not seeing that many retreats, all things considered. I would say I'm probably maybe one a day, maybe two on average. However, at the end of last year, I did notice that my retreat percentage was creeping up. I don't know if that's economic uncertainty, and so general dentists are seeing their schedules are getting slower, and so they're starting to do more of the initial cases themselves. Not necessarily sure. And I also saw that patients were coming in with more infected teeth. So the amount of drainage and I wasn't able to get everything dry. So I was two-stepping a lot more cases than I was, say, a year ago. So those were a couple of the reasons that made me start thinking about it, plus the deal that I was able to get. And so what I did, and if you're interested in, getting one of these, I recommend doing something similar. I went through every case. I bought the unit in November, right before Thanksgiving. It arrived in December, and I went through every case I did in the month of October and said, okay, how many of these would the GentleWave make for sure better by allowing me to do it in a single visit or being better with infections, cleaning that out? How many of these cases would be usable on the GentleWave it's something that, I was able to still do it in a single visit, but I'd probably feel more comfortable if I had the machine to clean the inside out. And then the final question was, how many of these cases would it not work out? Weird surgeries, resorptive cases where it might help, might not, deep caries, things like that, where the machine, you can technically use it on those cases, but will it make your life necessarily better? That's a story for another time. Just wanted to point out here, I'm not being paid by Sonendo to do any of this. I technically am a consultant to them, haven't done too much with them. I'd love to do more, obviously. I think it's a very cool machine, and I'm looking forward to talking more about it. But none of this is sponsored. These are all my own opinions. I've had these opinions for a long time, and what I'm kind of do is show you where my thought process was then and where I am today. So after looking at the numbers, and I think it's a Post-it note somewhere on my desk here. I don't know exactly. I probably should have gotten this ready before I recorded, but I have a Post-it note with hash marks of all the cases I did. And roughly about a third of them weren't going to be good GentleWave cases. Pediatric patients, anxiety where you got to be quick, deep caries where building platforms can be a little bit difficult. So about a third of the cases I saw in October were not suitable. However, about 2/3 of them were, and about 40 to 45% of those would have been improved upon with the GentleWave. So cases where there was still infection, end-step cases where you're doing it multiple times, or retreats where I was going to be doing them in a couple visits anyway. And that was really eye-opening for me. I talked with my staff a lot. Before you bring in any new technology, especially one that's as disruptive as this machine, it's wise to talk with your staff, especially those that you trust, because you're going to be upending the process in the entire office for sure. And it's important to make sure that you have buy-in of your staff as well as yourself before you you buy this. So don't go into buying, and this goes for anything. This is if you don't have a microscope and the staff's not prepared and doesn't understand why you're doing it, don't go buy a microscope. I think everyone should use a microscope. I think every general dentist should use a microscope for every procedure because it's that good. But if you're not bought into it and the staff's not bought into it, it's gonna be a waste of your time and money. So with this, I had a couple of longer discussions, especially with my office manager, Jenny, who's been around for a very long time. She had used the machine at the other office as well, so she was familiar with it. She also is a speaker for Son Endo, mostly on insurance and efficiency things that we talk about. But it was a kind of a group decision of, the deal's really good, and I'm always a sucker for a deal because who isn't? But more importantly, I think we can use this to help our patients and improve upon things. So now that we've done it for a month, I got the machine, started it up. The next question is, what was the biggest surprise? What made me say, oh, this isn't what I expected? And it is how much better the CleanFlow instrument is than it was when I used it about a year ago. I am very excited to talk to some of the people at Son Endo and figure out what they did, because the difference is ludicrous. It is so much easier to use. The platform does not have to be nearly as perfect as it used to. I have literally done it where I've gotten so much suction. It's only on a couple premolars, and I'll make a video on kind of how to use a machine like this ergonomically because it is a little more difficult. But there have been some premolars where I'm able to set it up that there's so much suction, the handpiece actually holds on to the tooth itself. That's crazy cool. And I've been surprised at how much better the CleanFlow is at, cleaning than I thought it was going to be. I used it before this. I used it about a year and a half ago, and they had just introduced the CleanFlow. I think my last time using it was February of 2023, and something's changed, and it's way for the better. I was of the opinion when I first, I had to order a bunch of hand pieces to start off. And for those of you who don't know, there's a couple different options. They had an anterior premolar one, which is now discontinued and was very similar to how the CleanFlow works, where it's more soft. It has like a squishy thing on top, like a squishy donut around it. So it's easier to use. The APM is what it was called, anterior premolar. And it was always one of my favorites because it was so straightforward to make the platform and use. They have what's called a 3-piece where it has it's a molar one. It has the vibrating post come out the middle, and you have to do different, what are they even called? Ceiling caps based on the distance from the pulpal floor to that. And that is still the strongest one out of all the options. However, it is by far the most finicky. And when I had started using CleanFlow about a year and a half ago, my finding was it was cool, especially if you're near a sinus or if it's a retreat with big openings. But on anything small, it didn't seem strong or efficient enough to really make it worthwhile. That's changed. It is so much better than it was before. And in this month, I've used one molar and the rest of them in CleanFlow. So that was one of the biggest surprises by far. And the other one was how much easier the platform is to build now with the new CleanFlow matrix than it was before. Those are by far my two biggest surprises. And I guess the final surprise is how much more often I'm using it. I'm not sure if this is sunk cost fallacy. If this is, you bought the expensive toy. As far as how we're charging for it, I don't. My philosophy, I was given probably one of the best compliments of my professional career by a patient who, one of my better referrals told her, he is the best in town and he's also the most expensive in town. And my opinion is I'd much rather be that than the cheapest and worst in town. And as far as providing that value for the patient and the general dentist, I think some enhanced irrigation is going to be a necessary tool that you have, especially in a medium to large size city moving forward. If you want to stand out, you need to do something that's different. And for a lot of people who come from the idea of, you have to remove as much bacteria as possible, which I see all the time in the comment section of my YouTube videos, that's how a lot of general dentists were taught and kind of think as well, because they were taught by older dentists who the only thing they knew how to do was you put a paper point in there and you culture it. And once the culture is negative, that's when you finally seal. And that's great. But that's not necessary in every case. And by having this tool around, you stand apart from other dentists in town by being able to say, hey, here's something that I have that's unique. For me, from the patient standpoint, it's the ability to do cases in a single visit and feel confident I'm not going to have to go back in after. I would very, 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 very rarely, like once or twice a year, one step a retreat in my office. Everything else was two. It was anything that I couldn't get dry, anything that looked nasty from the beginning, any swelling case, those were all 2 steps. So I was already doing small shapes. I was already using limited numbers of files. If you're not doing small shapes and limited number of files, right there, go get enhanced irrigation because you can be so much more conservative. But for me, the real savings for both time and, let's say, definitely financially, is the ability to finish cases in a single visit. Any regrets? Well, not as much. I should have ordered fewer molar procedure instruments. I don't. I ordered 25 out of the original 100 as molars because I thought about, a quarter of my cases would need it, and that has not been the case whatsoever. I am in the process of hiring another assistant right now. We are a little short-staffed, so that's one regret is I haven't been able to utilize my team as effectively as I would like. So we're still kind of in the learning process and trying to figure out how to efficiently incorporate it into our schedule. So far, it has not actually been that bad. We were talking about potentially having to lengthen the schedule, especially for retreat, one-step buildups. Thankfully, I don't do too many of those. Like I said, my practice is a little more unique, and I have found it actually comes in pretty handy. The being able to finish these cases in a single visit, like I said, is just with the confidence that it's going to be okay, is really beneficial. And that's on me. I know there are a lot of endodontists who are extremely talented who do almost all of their cases in a single visit and have great success. I am not that person. I like to have that predictability, and so this gives me that predictability that I've been missing. And then the final question is, what do I want to improve upon? So we've had it for a month. Where do I see this going next? Right now, I'm still struggling with certain platform building, especially with deep decay. Playing around with a few different things. I've open margin crowns. Those are a little bit tricky. If you've never used the machine before, if there is recurrent decay, and even if you can't see it, the GentleWave is so powerful, it will rip out all the caries. And then all of a sudden you'll have blood coming in. It's a mess. The patient has bleach in their mouth. It's not a good experience. So trying to figure out how to better play around with those. I played around with iSeal, which is a nice composite that you can use on these cases that sometimes works. But I'm still not confident on it, and I'm still playing around with it. Learning how to more efficiently schedule, because like I said, my practice is unique. So not every patient needs the GentleWave. I know a ton of my friends who work in big cities and all they do is retreat all day long. And it's very easy to incorporate because they use it on every single patient. The number of times I've shown my burr block to friends and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you have that many carbides. And it's because I see so many kids and caries cases on anxious people. I don't really I drill through a crown maybe twice a day. It's not super, super common. So learning how to use it on those not as ideal cases is one of the things I'd like to do. And then get the team up to speed on it. We have a new employee coming in 2 days, Monday, and very excited to have her on board. Got to get up on the basic things. But once we have all 3 of my staff, running the basic front desk, back office stuff, the next goal is to teach them to do more of the GentleWave stuff. So it'd free me up to see other patients and help other emergencies and things like that. So anyway, those are kind of the questions that I've had both personally, privately. I guess those are the exact same thing. Not sure why I said that. Online versus, people messaging me about it. So hopefully those answers those questions for you. If you have any other questions, please drop them below. I always write them down and save them. I'm literally looking at a Word document right over here for what the questions are that people have asked. And I'm happy to answer any of them, but I really have enjoyed getting the machine more than I thought. And I know that seems crazy that I'd spend all this money on getting the machine and not necessarily know how often am I going to use it. But yeah, even at a third of my cases, I would find it to be beneficial, both from my comfort level of getting the infection out and from a financial standpoint. Everybody's happier to do a case in a single visit versus 2. The patient's happier, the general dentist is happier, staff is happier. As long as you can incorporate it without messing up the schedule and the efficiencies in there, it's really worth it. So as always, thank you so much for watching. Please drop a comment below. I will be making more videos on this. If I end up buying the laser, I'll make videos on that as well. But I appreciate all of you for watching. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you all next time.